All right.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. So, hello, stream. As promised, we have brought to you the man, Paul Knepper, author of The Knicks of the 90s. Um, when I tell you I haven't read a book this fast since I was in grade school and a book report was due, that's how quickly I read this, and it was an easy read and entertaining, man. It brought back all the feels. Unfortunately, it brought back all the heartache. um, So, Paul, I saw that you have I guess a background in law, right?
Mhm.
I know when I listened to you on Macri's podcast, you said that was your primary, I guess, your primary work, right?
Right.
In a law background.
Yeah.
What made you write the book, man? I mean, besides your love for the
Um.
team.
Yeah. It was definitely love. Uh. It was. You know. I say it like this. I probably think about the '90s Knicks more than I should because the last couple decades have been so dismal. And I was really just one morning I was thinking about them, and I thought to myself, somebody should write a book about those teams. They were such fun teams, and they were so loved by the city, right? They were so
Oh
loved by
yeah.
New Yorkers and Knicks fans, and there were a lot of great characters on those teams. There were a lot of great, rivalries and storylines and drama with the Bulls and the Heat and the Pacers. And I thought I just kind of thought somebody should write a book. And I had done some writing in the past. I wrote for Bleacher Report for a little while. I blogged and that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
so I just kind of thought, well, why not me? Why not me? So I went from there.
That's the way to go about it, right? Why not me? That's a good
Yeah.
outlook on life, period, right? I appreciate all the work you did into this book because just looking through the sources at the end of every chapter, it looks like you left no stone unturned. Um, what source was the I guess your most fun to delve into, the history of the team and the stories that those discussions uncovered.
Yeah, there were two different kinds. There were the sources that were really fun uh, from a fan standpoint. To talk to Charles Oakley and John Starks, guy,
Mhm.
two of my all-time favorite players. They were like the fan in me was very excited about that. Um, they weren't necessarily the greatest interviews. They were fine. They were cool, but sometimes it's the lesser known guys that are more open with you. For one, they don't do interviews all the time, so they're not kind of tired of doing interviews, or they don't have their like regular canned answers. And I think a lot of times the lesser guys um, have less to lose, right? They're not as well known. They don't have a reputation. So guys like Steve Masiello, who is now the coach at Manhattan College, he was a ball boy for the Knicks back then, and
Oh
he
wow.
was great. I mean, like as you can imagine, the ball boys see a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes. So he was great. Um, Dave Checkitz, who was the president of the Knicks and then became president of Madison Square Garden, was fantastic. He gave me a lot of time, and he was there throughout the '90s and knew a lot of what was going on in the front office and that kind of stuff. So he was really good too.
Um, so like just going through the first couple chapters, you hit us with a million bombs. I didn't realize how many times we almost lost Ewing. Like, when you first heard that come out of somebody's mouth, did you already know? That there were so many close calls with Patrick, leaving town, or was that new
Um,
revelation for you?
it was. I knew there was talk of it, right? So I was young at the time, but I remember that he was unhappy and that there was some talk that that they were at least discussing trades.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know how many trade offers they received. I didn't know. For example, Dave Checkitz told me that he flew down to San Antonio and offered Red McCombs, the owner of the San Antonio Spurs, Patrick Ewing, and $10 million for David Robinson. That kind of blew my mind. I was like, whoa, I never heard that before. So there was I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know exactly how unhappy Patrick was and how much he wanted to get out of New York.
Yeah, like what was craziest to me is that every time they were looking to move him, it was to somebody that was considered one of our rivals. Like, yeah, you just mentioned it, the Spurs, the Heat, Sherman Douglas and Ronnie Cycli. Like, I
Yeah,
at that time I would have threw up.
right.
um,
I know,
the Shaq story. I guess when he was coming up on free agency,
right?
it makes you
Right.
wonder what if, because at that time there was nobody more dominating than Shaq. I mean, I love Patrick, but if Shaq was in New York, that would have been crazy. I don't know how the rest of the team would have shook out around that, but and just the bevity of information that you uncovered, man, it's crazy. What what if moment like do you think would have changed the trajectory of this team the most? You think it's X-Man leaving, um maybe going with Reggie Miller instead of Allen Houston, or something else?
Yeah, man, that's tough. There's so many, right? So many what ifs. I mean, to me, the biggest what if is Game 6 of the '94 Finals. What if Olajuwon didn't block Starks' shot at the end there? Because Starks was on fire. He had 16 points in the fourth quarter that game.
Mm.
He was feeling it, and he had a good look. And Olajuwon just made an incredible play to get a fingertip on that shot. And to me, that's the biggest what if, because if that shot goes in, they win the championship. That's it. That shot was it was at the buzzer. That would have been it, and it would have changed, the way those teams are viewed. It would have changed certainly
Mm.
Patrick's legacy, to have a ring. So that's the biggest. But there are so many. I mean, what if Pat Riley stayed? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge. Yeah. What if X Man didn't go? People love to talk about that because they were so good in '93 the following year, and of course there's that famous sequence with Charles Smith,
Mm.
and everybody, including X Man, who I talked to, feels like X would have went up strong there and drew a foul at the least. Um, so yeah, I mean, there on down the line, right? There are a lot of what ifs,
Yeah,
for those teams.
it's so many. Like we came close so many times. It's either the
Yeah.
ball didn't bounce the right way, or just something didn't line up, or suspensions. What do you miss most about that era of basketball?
Um, with the Knicks specifically, or
Or
the
just
league in general?
in general, and then with the Knicks.
Yeah, in general, a couple things. I mean, I miss. It's tough. I mean, it's such a different game now. It's like it's almost like watching a different sport. I mean, with the guys just didn't really shoot that many 3-point shots then, for starters.
Mm.
So there's a lot more 3-point shooting now. It was a lot more physical then, a lot more low scoring, and it got a little too physical in that I think they were, guys weren't able to show off some of their skills
Mhm.
because they were constantly being held and pushed and banged around. So I think it was good to clean that up a little, but I think they went a little too far. Um, so I miss the physicality a little bit, and I miss the rivalries somewhat. I don't think there are the same rivalries in the league now, and I'm not sure. I think part of that is there's more player movement now. Guy
Yeah.
contracts are shorter than they were then, so you didn't have, like when the Knicks in the '90s, obviously Jordan and Pippen were there for the whole '90s, with that rivalry. And you look at the Pacers, it was the same guys the whole '90s. Obviously Reggie Miller was there the whole '90s, but even like Rick Smits and the Davis brothers and Mark Jackson, those guys were there for. You had teams that were together for a really long time, and those teams would meet in the playoffs year after year, and that would build these really intense rivalries. And then you add in the physicality on top of it, and these guys were fighting, actually getting in fights year after year. It made it more intense. Now I think with it being less physical, and as I said, with guys moving around more, you don't get those same year after year matchups in the playoffs, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah, I miss that too. I hate Brooklyn Nets though. I hate them. You think that's gonna work out? I think it's
Man, I don't know. mean, my biggest thing with them is the defense. Like, I think they'll figure it out on offense. Because the three of them they're just such great ball players. I don't know. They have that they'll have to check their egos for sure. But even if they do, I worry about the defense. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop people at all.
Yeah,
Then again, I don't know. With those three guys, I don't know if they need to stop anybody.
I don't know. I feel like Kyrie might be the odd man out sometime in the next like year or two. But
Yeah, he might be.
I just think just for the team to work, they need somebody with a strong presence down low. And DeAndre was washed when he got to us last year. So I mean,
Yeah,
add a couple more months to that, and it's not good.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly right.
With the Kirk,
There's not like a real power forward. I mean, yeah, I mean, Durant could play the four, but you don't want him doing a lot of time banging down low. So you're right. Size is a problem.
yeah, when it gets down to playoff time, I don't know. I foresee what was that? Joe Johnson, Paul Pierce, Deron Williams Nets 2.0. That's my prediction. I like where we're going though. The
Yeah.
last couple weeks have been amazing. I mean, we took some L's and that was expected. Who's your favorite player on this squad now? And what do you want to see going forward to the future?
Um, I like RJ. I like the way he gets after it. And Quickly's been a lot of fun, right? I mean
Oh
that's
man,
been like a really that's been the really pleasant surprise. He's fun to watch because he's crafty. I love how he draws those fouls and he plays like I mean he's young. He was in college for 2 years, but he plays like a veteran in a lot of ways. Like he's smart, and so I really like watching him play. Um, yeah, it's been great. I mean Thibodeau was an assistant under Van Gundy in the late '90s. I actually
hmm
talked to him for the book, and he's brought some of that mentality back. The defense is they're one of the best ranked defenses in the league, and that's something that hasn't been there for a long time. So
I
they
mean, he caught up, right? Because we played no
yeah
defense for like a decade, so
yeah. I
it's
mean it's like basics, right? It's like when you look at why they're so much better, it's basic stuff that you learn in like that I learned like in high school. It's like you got to play hard, you got to play smart. There's structure on offense. It looks like there's a plan and a system in place,
hmm
and they play really hard, and that's made all the difference. And so yeah, it's fun. You gotta hopefully Obi can get going a little bit. I think he got a little sidetracked with the calf
yeah, with
injury.
that
Set him
injury.
back a little bit, and it's gonna be tough because Randall's playing so well, and Tibbs likes to play him a lot of minutes, so they're gonna have to find some minutes for Obi. Um, and then Randall's the big question, right? I mean, going to the season, I mean, he's been fantastic.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. Like a
a
lot of Knicks fans
different
want to
player.
get yeah. Well, a lot
Like
of Knicks fans want to get rid of him before the season, myself included.
me too.
Um, just because I felt like, and I never thought he was I always thought he was a good player, but I didn't think he was a number one option for sure. And I thought his style of play um, didn't mesh well with like RJ and Mitch Robinson and all that. But he's been fantastic, and so I wonder if the front office has to kind of figure out what they want to do with him now going forward. Do you want to? Is he in the long term plans? Are they going to re-sign him? So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think for sure you take the option. You exercise that team option
Yeah,
on him and lock him down for next year. That way you don't speed Obi into it because I think Obi is gonna need a little bit of time. I know he's on the older age for a rookie, but you don't wanna just throw him into the fire like they did RJ and Kev and wasted a year or two.
right.
Because I think that's what happened with Kev. You saw it early on, all the potential in the world. He was scoring 20 points. He had a 30-point game his rookie year, right? Um,
Yeah,
and then defenses started figuring him out. They started I guess adjusting the game plan to him, and he couldn't adjust because of the lack of good coaching. I mean,
yeah,
I am so happy that we have this development staff we have now, and Tibbs just instilling that workman coat that that work ethic in the team, man. It makes it a lot easier to root for these guys than in the past.
Yeah.
Um, with with RJ, dude, his turnaround has been amazing. Too. I, I've noticed the last couple games he stopped settling for them threes that he was chucking up, and it's nice to see him go to work in the mid range there. Um, what's your feelings on Elf?
You know, he's funny, right? I mean, it seems like there's always a guy the fan base needs to just crap on, you know. And I have a good buddy who I go back and forth with Elf on. Elf on. I I'm I'm not an Elf hater. Let me put it that way. I feel better about Elf than most people. I think. Um, Here's my thing. I think Elf is. I think he should be a backup. I think he's a solid backup
Mm-hmm.
point guard. That's what you know. And so right now you have him playing like I think he's playing like 28, 29 minutes a night, and that's too much. He's not that no, he's not that good. You know, he's not everyone he's garbage. I don't think he's garbage. I think he's not a starting point guard
Yeah,
though.
I
And
think I
and that's
think
the
you put him
problem.
with that second unit because there's a little bit more shooting there, right? You have Kev, and then Austin when he gets back, right? You create a little bit more space that for Elf to work. But out
Yeah,
there with Julius and Mitch, everything gets packed in. Nobody's out on the
right.
perimeter anymore.
And
Um,
and RJ too for that matter. RJ's playing great, but people aren't going to respect his 3-point shot. So they packed it in against him. Yeah, I don't know. I think the big thing with him too is I think at this point still he's a significantly better defender than Quickly, and I think that's why Tibbs has him out there with a starting unit. He likes his defense.
you think end of
Um,
the year quickly starting or
uh, I would guess probably not. I think probably not. Especially if they're playing. I mean, so what? They're 8 and 9 now. Like if they're around 500 and in the playoff hunt, I think Tibbs is going to stick with uh, with Elf. If for some reason they really fall off and they're no longer fighting for a playoff position, then I think maybe then you turn it over to the young guy.
yeah,
Um,
I think our like once we hit that halfway point in the season, we'll start to really see what this team is. I mean, they're playing great on a tough schedule right now, so
yeah,
it's very promising. Do you think Mitch breaks out the jumper ever, or
man, I hope so. You know, I tweeted the other day. He was I don't know if you remember, but over the summer he like put out video of him shooting 3-pointers, and everybody all got all excited. And I was like, I hope next summer he releases a video of him shooting free throws. That's what I'd like to see. You know, I mean, like chill, take it easy with the threes. Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be real nice. Like I'd hope he doesn't. You know, the guy you look at, you can compare him to is Nerlens Noel, who's been in the league for I don't know 7 8 years now,
mm,
and he still doesn't he still has nothing, right? I mean, he can't. You leave him over from 6 feet and he can't make a shot. I hope Mitch isn't that. You know, you don't have to hit threes. You don't have to be a great shooter. It'd be nice at the very least if you have like if he finds himself in a situation where he's got a small guy on him down low, you need a move. Give me one move. A hook shot, a drop step. Yeah, maybe a face-up jumper, but you need something that could make you a threat. Um, because he's playing really well. I don't want to knock
oh,
him,
his defense is
but
amazing,
yeah, the
and
defense has been
and
great, and he crashes the boards and he gets some nice putbacks on offense, and he gets his lobs. He seems to have good chemistry with RJ. RJ throws it up for him sometimes. But yeah, it would be nice for him to develop a little something offensively.
yeah, even just a little elbow jumper, something to
Yeah,
keep people honest, and
right.
just make a little bit of space. I mean, Randall has that, but uh, when the further out he goes, the higher the chance of missing increases. Um, with back to the '90s Knicks, what I found interesting was your tidbit on Herb Williams, man, because every Knick fan is like, why is this guy sticking around for forever? Like Like you can't get him to leave. You trade him away, he comes right back. You drop him,
Yeah.
you release him, and he's back on the team in 2 weeks. Like yeah, just I guess lifting that veil, into the locker room was cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Herb was kind of like, and I think teams did that more back then, where you kind of kept around the veterans. It's almost like like a Udonis Haslem in Miami. I mean, Haslem he hasn't played in years, right? And the same thing, he's like 40 years old. Like, there's no way they're putting him in the game, and you're kind of like, what is that guy doing there? And it's just that he's a great. It's almost like another coach, really, in the
hmm
locker room.
I think that I think we've done well with I mean Todd. They brought Taj back this year in that kind type of role.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish they would bring
Taj,
a guard, a
Taj
savvy
isn't
guard.
quite as Yeah, Taj isn't quite as I mean, Herb was still there like years after he was playable. Like Taj was still playable even last year a little bit. He's not quite in Herb territory.
Yeah, I mean Taj still give us like 4 or 5 good minutes.
Right.
I wish we did that with a guard, man. I think that would really elevate the team. Somebody,
Yeah.
besides a coach, sitting there on the bench with the guys and walking through, what they could work on, some nuance in the game. I mean, being that Elf and the rest of the point guards are so close in age, I don't think they get into that little minutia that would really move, the younger players to the next level. Like you,
Yeah, and I talked to actually talked to Charlie Ward about that. Going back to the '90s, and he talked about Derek Harper a lot, and he said what a influence Harper was on him, um, on and off the court. And now Harper was still good. I mean, Harper was starting at that point, but it doesn't have to be a starter, right? It could be a bench guy. It could
yeah.
be just a respected vet who says, and Ward was like, hey, he said, hey man, this is how you dress. This is how you invest your money. This is how you carry yourself with respect and off the court. And by the way, like, this is how you double team a guy in the post. This is how you do a jab step. This is a shot fake. Like, just little, and that simple stuff, but more complex stuff. Little hints here and there. Just whispering in his ear on the bench, like, this is how you do this. You see that move right there. You see what he that defender missed over there. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So I agree completely.
Yeah, I kind of wish we brought Vince in a couple years back, and save him from Atlanta. But I guess he liked his run there. Vince would have been great with RJ, at least for a year. Um,
Yeah, and the last time the Knicks were good in 2013, you had some guys like that, like a Prigioni even, or Jason Kidd, who were older guys, and they were playing some, but they were older guys, older vets who could pull the young guys aside and say, "Hey, man, this is how you do it. This is how you practice hard. This is how you eat right. Stuff like that. You need guys like that."
Speaking of that iteration of the Knicks, the great job with this '90s Knicks. Were you thinking about writing a book on that era?
I haven't really thought of it. No, it
Do
could be. It
it,
could be interesting.
do it. I want to see the Woody era into the Phil Jackson.
Yeah, I've thought about doing just like the whole, like the Dolan years, just like what's gone on the last 2 decades. But it would be too depressing though.
Nah, you gotta do little bites. Yeah, we don't want you going crazy, Paul. The world needs your writing, so just take it piece by piece. Yeah, man. I just found it so interesting with that team. Like, you thought we were like right there, and then just one wrong move, Andrea Bargnani kills us.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird, right? Because it seemed like we were really building something and on the verge of being real contenders, and then yeah, it fell apart quickly, really.
Yeah, it was. We had what, Shump, Landry Fields got
Yeah,
the got an injury bug, and then who else we had young there? I mean, the damn Lynn.
Shump, man, Shump is he's one of those guys. I was sure he was going to be a really good player.
Oh, me too.
You
He
know,
came out with the
and he did all
fire,
right.
and then
He stuck around for 7, 8 years, and he played for the Cavs a little. But like, I don't know if All-Star necessarily, but close, like close to All-Star level. I really thought he was, because his defense. his first couple of years, his defense, I mean, was phenomenal. He was locked down, and he was a great athlete. And so you thought like the offensive game was going to come. You're like, all right, because his jump shot, it wasn't good, but it looked okay. It
Mm.
wasn't like a broken shot. It wasn't. So you were like, all right, well, he'll be a better shooter, and he's a really good athlete, and he's quick, so he's going to get to the basket. And it just like, especially the offensive game, just never came.
Yeah, I remember there were at one point there were like whispers about him for Jimmy Butler when Jimmy was coming up on free agency. Oh
Yeah,
God.
and then there was talk. There was talk of him for Kyle Lowry at one point. Like he was really highly regarded around the league. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be a really good player, and it just kind of never happened.
Well, that injury, but it was his left leg, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had
And
that
that
knee
slowed
injury.
him down, and that'll take you out of elite territory.
It
Um,
was right around the time that he had the same injury as Derrick Rose. Right around the same time when Derrick Rose first hurt his knee.
yeah, and then D Rose. Oh man, uh,
Yeah,
I wish that worked too.
yeah.
Oh man, I just remember Porzingis just looking at him like, where's the ball? I'm the new star. What are you doing? Take it easy. Your knee. That's it.
Yeah.
With the how do you view the Porzingis trade now that we're a couple years out?
I still don't like it. I was really not happy when it happened, and it's better in time because I mean, we don't know if Porzingis is ever really going to be able to stay healthy. That's a big thing, and if he isn't, then fine. But I kind of looked at it like we got two draft picks, who were they're not going to be high draft picks. So you got two like low first round draft picks for a guy who was like a 23-year-old all star at the time, and it just
Mm.
didn't. Um, I just feel like they could have done better. I mean, a lot of it was they wanted cap space, and then they got all that cap space, but then they didn't sign anybody with the cap space.
And we got Julius
Um,
Randle, bro.
yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, Randall's turned out really good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's similar numbers actually when you dig
yeah,
into it. Except
yeah.
Julius is on the court in January.
It's turned out. I think it's turned out better than I thought it would at the time.
Yeah, well, we'll
I'll
see
say
next
that.
year with the draft. You know,
Yeah, we'll see the draft
if it's
picks.
that deep as they say it is, I think it could be a blessing. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
who have you started looking at the prospects for next year's class or?
I haven't seen a lot. No, I don't. I don't watch as much college basketball. When I do, I usually watch. So I went to University of Michigan, so I watch a lot of Michigan games.
Oh,
They have a
nice.
really nice squad this year, actually. And so no, I've seen Cade Cunningham play a couple times. He looked good. He didn't look like a super. I don't know. He didn't look like a future number one pick
He
to
don't look
me.
like John Morant.
Right? Yeah. No. I mean, it wasn't like when you watched Zion a couple years ago. It was like, oh my, like mind blowing. He didn't. I wasn't amazed by him. Now, in fairness, it was only a couple games. He
Mhm.
looked good, and you could see there's something there. I mean, he's like 6'8", and he's highly skilled. That anytime you have that kind of skill at 6'8", you're dangerous. But in general, like I just haven't seen enough of these guys to know.
Yeah.
Have you seen anybody you like?
I like him and Jalen Suggs. Um, but I'm not in the tank, fam. I want us to win. I'm tired of losing. I want to see us
Yeah,
compete. I think it'll be best for our young players to be in games that matter, whether it be a play in at the 10th seed to smell some playoff experience. I think that'll help us much more. I mean, I really believe in RJ. I think that's where I'm at right now.
yeah,
Just seeing him under Tibbs and how much he's fighting and fighting through the adversity of earlier this season, couldn't knock down a shot. And
yeah,
I think that pep talk he got from Steve was game changing for him because you saw the next game, it was like a light switch, a different
yeah,
dude.
yeah. Yeah, I like him too. I mean, he's tough. He's a tough kid, and I mean, the best thing about him is he gets to the basket. He just gets to the basket, and a little like he reminds. I mean, he's bigger, but he reminds me a little like Jimmy Butler.
Hmm.
He just get. You're not. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the greatest athlete, but he just gets to the basket, and that's gonna. You do that, you're gonna score. You're gonna get the team in foul trouble. It creates a lot of problems. So I mean, the dream, hopefully, if he could just develop a decent jump shot. He doesn't have to be. I don't think he's ever going to be a great shooter, and he doesn't need to be. Because he gets to the basket like that. If he can develop a decent shot, it'll make it that much more easy for him to get to the basket. And but I like it. He's got a good feel. You get he's just some guys like he's a really good rebounder, right? I mean, some guys just seem to they seem to read the ball coming off the rim better than others. They just
Yeah.
know where to be on the floor and how to go get the ball. And he's a good passer. He has a really good feel for the game, and he's tough. And so, yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, he's like a Canadian version of like a Swiss Army knife. Like he could do it all.
Yeah, yeah. He's a Canadian Army. He's a Canadian Army.
Like he's my favorite dude on the team right now. Do you think they're gonna make any moves?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea. Um, you know, I don't. I don't know, and I think Randall's really the most interesting piece now because I think coming into this season, I think they probably didn't view him as part of the future. I think they probably were going to see if they could get anything for him at the trade deadline, and then maybe let him go in the off season. But I think that that view has to have changed. So uh, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. What do you think?
I,
Think
I
they'll make
think
any
I think it'll
moves?
be a small move. I don't think they'll move Randall. I think he solidified himself and he's
Yeah, I agree. He's their best player, right? I mean, they're trying to
he,
win games, and he's their best player.
yeah, and I think Tibbs likes what he sees with him. I think if they do anything, it'll be something small, like maybe Reggie. I mean, he puts it out there on the floor, but with Kev's reemergence, it gives a little bit more. Yeah, Bullock becomes a little bit more expendable. And you got
Yeah,
Burks. Burks lit it up when he's healthy.
right.
And
I was gonna say
Austin's
Burks could take those minutes too. Yeah,
yeah, Austin's shown leadership. So my hope is that we don't throw out too much and try to go get Lonzo because he can't shoot either. Like we just go for failed, lottery point guards every year. Maybe just give Quick a
yeah,
chance and see
yeah.
where
And
it
I
falls
just
for next
don't
year.
see. I mean, I mean, I just don't see. I just don't see a really good point guard being available by trade in the middle of the season. So it's. I don't really know where that. Because I would still love a point guard. I like Quickly. I think he can play some point. I don't know. He might be best served ultimately to be like a Lou Williams like 6-man type too, though. A guy who can
Hmm.
come in and get buckets quickly. Um, no pun intended. um, but yeah, maybe play him some at the point. I'd be happy to get a point, a more like traditional point guard, but they're tough to come by.
Yeah, it's crazy because there's so many of them in the league, but we never get the
We
right
never have.
one.
No.
It's never the right one. And it's always talks of one, but never the right one. Hopefully we don't get Bledsoe or anything crazy like that. Like
Yeah,
that's a fear of
but
mine.
I
But
agree with you on that. I agree with you with play to win games. They need to win games. They need to change the culture of losing, and especially with the lottery odds. They changed it where even if you have the worst team in the league, the chances aren't that good of you getting the top pick. I mean, a couple years ago we were the worst team in the league, and we got the third pick with RJ. So you don't, and it could have been worse than that. So you just don't know. There's no guarantees you're going to get a top pick. Even if you get a top pick, there's no guarantees they're going to be that good. I mean, like you just
how many
Lonzo
lottery picks
Ball.
have we had?
Yeah, I mean, Lonzo Ball was. I mean, Lakers were thrilled to get Lonzo Ball, and the first pick that year was Markel Fultz, and both of those guys are decent players, but they're not all stars. Never mind like superstars. So you're tanking, and you may not get the best pick, the top pick, and then if you get the top pick, you might not be that good. And there are guys in other places, right? I mean, you look at guys like uh, Donovan Mitchell, who we passed on, was picked. I don't remember what was he, 12, 13, 14 in
Yeah, I
that
think he was
range, something like
13.
that.
Yeah, he was down
Yeah,
there.
like Bam Adebayo was like 14 or something. Like you don't necessarily have to get a top pick. You look at there was a lot about that with the Heat last year. The Heat went to the finals last year, and they didn't have. I don't think they had a top 10 pick on their roster. You
Mm-mm.
look at all those guys. I mean, they got guys. They have Duncan Robinson starting for them, who wasn't even drafted. So there are a lot of ways to build a team, and the draft is far from a sure thing.
Yeah, I think we gotta win. We have to win now. Speaking of lottery, are you in the frozen envelope believer,
Oh man,
or do you think
I don't think there was a frozen envelope. I don't.
me neither?
Um, yeah, I get it, right? I kind of get why people would think that. Like there was a big um, the NBA's TV deal was coming up soon, and they were trying to get a new big TV deal, and they wanted. Ewing was such a huge prospect, and it would make sense that they would want him in New York in the biggest market. But I don't know. I also, with conspiracies in general too. I'm not a big conspiracy guy in general because I think some people talk, like things come out eventually.
Mm.
Somebody eventually down somewhere along the line would have said, "Hey, you know, I know this happened." So I don't think so. But
Well, Paul, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the book, man. It was a pleasure to 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 go back to that era and remember what winning feels like. Unfortunately, remember the losses, but the winning did uh overcome everything. I mean, we did compete, and I love the fight of the team, and I feel like it's coming back. Um,
yeah,
and I think it's a perfect time for this book to come out because of the culture we have, being built by Tom and Leon now. So I mean, it's so relevant, and I just want to say I want to. Oh, the chat says they remember the losses. Yes, we all remember the losses, chat.
you know what though? The big thing was we played in games that mattered, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you were playing in late June. You were playing in really big games that mattered, and you cared, and you were excited, and and yeah, I remember the losses too, man. I mean, some of those losses are devastating, but there were some really incredible moments too,
So
right? I
many
mean,
incredible.
getting to the finals, and yeah, the big L. I mean, Allen Houston shot against Miami. When we did finally beat the Bulls, even though Jordan wasn't there anymore. Like, yeah, there are a lot of great moments.
Yeah, and I feel like we're coming back to that now with the new squad. I put it out there at the beginning of the season when we were on that crazy run that in the next 5 years we'll have a chip.
All right, man, you're on record.
I'm on record, and it's because of this book. It brought back those feels. We're gonna get there. Paul, where can people find you? Where can people find the book?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Paulieknep. That's PauliekNep. And the book is called The Knicks of the 90s, Ewing, Oakley, Starks, and the Brawlers that almost won it all. And you can find that on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all those places that sell books.
Is there a way you prefer people to get the book? Because I know with with this digital world, you see the payouts are a little bit different. We want Paul to get his money, so if you're gonna get the book,
Thank you. I really appreciate that, but I want the buyers to do what's best for them. So do what's best for you. Thank you though.
oh no problem, man. I got the digital because I'm trying to have all my books in one little spot.
All right.
But it was such a good read, man, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I
Thanks for
truly.
having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, no problem, man. Anytime you want to come through and talk Knicks, we'll be around. We do some. We have like a virtual NBA league on a cloud platform that we're doing, and I actually control the Knicks team on there, and we're gonna make the playoffs in there, and I'm gonna win the chip for sure.
There you
Uh,
go.
the whole Discord that's watching, you're not gonna win. I don't care. I don't- All right, Paul. You have a great
All right,
weekend,
man.
man, and thanks again for the book, man. It is awesome.
Sure. All All right, go Knicks. Thanks again.
Go Knicks.